Hey Toots, how you doing? Is not something Captain Picard would say. Welcome back to the beanbag. Wow, I had a moment. We haven't been on the beanbag in a while. To the black blanket. Today I am going to be talking about some figures from the 1930s. At least that's how they were presented. So, during Star Trek The Next Generation, Captain Picard, on a few occasions, and even in Star Trek First Contact, the movie, played this character called Dixon Hill. He was a private investigator and solved crimes. I guess that's about the only thing you can really... it was one of the fun things that Captain Picard did during his off time kind of thing. He got Guinan to go with him on one occasion, and they turned that into a box set. The two of them came together, along with this little diorama that I'm going to try and get their feet positioned onto real quick so I can show you how it's in the other shoe. Looked something like that, which is actually really cool. It's just a piece of cardboard that you stick into the plastic at the bottom, but the shadow at the back actually does make it look really cool and like it's backlit and that kind of thing. But originally they had done a different Picard. It was basically the exact same Picard, the exact same suit. It's just painted this sort of dark blue-gray color. And that was one of the individuals. There was also a Data, because Data went with him one time into the holodeck to check out the program, which again, it's the exact same body. They just put a Data head and a hat on it, and this hat's supposedly removable, but I've never been bold enough to actually try and remove it, because it's on there pretty good. Like, I know for a fact that the Picard one is actually molded on. In fact, one of the coolest things, I should have pointed this out, if you actually look really close, they actually molded this Picard with just a little bit of a grin. You see how his cheek is just lifted slightly on the right side? I've always thought that was kind of cool that they did that. And in the same episode where Data went with him, they also took Dr. Crusher, and she dressed up in this outfit and had this little black hat that actually had a little net thing that came down over her face. And again, you can tell this is an original sculpt for her face as well, because they've also got her smiling a little bit, which is kind of cool. So it's a nice representation that they're having a good little time kind of thing. And then also keeping with the theme, in the original series, they had an episode where Kirk and Spock went to this planet that had been influenced by a book that was written about gangsters from the 1930s. And so they had to dress up and disguise themselves. And so they had made this figure, and it was an exclusive that you had to get online. I think if you watched the video I did a couple of weeks ago, I already showed this. This is my loose version of it. And again, it's the exact same body. They've just repainted it they did a wonderful job on this pinstriping. Let me flip it over. Like, that could almost pass for Gomez Adams pinstriping on the back. Now, throughout the episode, Kirk did wear a hat. I'm going to be trying to mold one soon so that he can actually have... he had a blue hat that he made to match his suit and tie. And then for the custom for this episode, they had never made a Spock, so I made my own Spock. This was another of the Dixon Hill bodies, and I got a Spock head, put it on there, repainted the whole thing. Spock, of course, having this fascinatingly horrible orange tie and sort of a tan-colored shirt that he wore in the episode. And he also had a hat, and I'll have to eventually see if I can get a hat made for him as well. Now, one thing that I have done for these figures, sort of as a custom thing, was from another line that Playmates made. just actually a couple of years earlier, before they started working on Star Trek, was they did this little movie with this guy named Warren Beatty called Dick Tracy. And I've actually got a few of these Dick Tracy figures here. I believe these were from 91. Oh, I think I just dropped the gun. It doesn't actually say on the figure, but yeah, I think it was it was 1990. Now that I think about it, it was 1990 that they made Dick Tracy, and the toy line did not do all that great. And if I just take and hold these two figures next to each other, you can probably figure out why. Like, they were trying, it was this aesthetic of the 1930s gangsters, and, and here's one of the bad guys from the movies, Prune Face. Can you figure out why he's got that name? But they wanted them to have this, like, He-Man body type, which is ridiculous looking. And it did not work. I mean, I thought they were cool at the time. I was like 8, 9 when the movie came out, something like that, maybe close to 10. But they had one thing that these came with that became a really cool, convenient thing for my Star Trek figures, is the fact that because a few of the figures came with a Tommy gun. So then I could have Kirk or Dixon Hill, Picard, whoever I wanted, standing around with Tommy guns. So that made for a fantastic accessory to cross over. But then also from Dick Tracy, there was another thing that came from that toy line that was absolutely beautiful. And they're a little hard to come by now, but if you can get your hands on one, you should do it. It's this Packer. Look at this. It is a thing of beauty. It's got these chrome pieces on the bumper. The doors do actually open. Only the front door is open. On this one, the only piece that was missing was actually the side view mirror, and I made a new one to go with it. And a fun little thing is you can take the spare wheel tire off the back, and if you can get your fingers to cooperate, it pops open, and you can actually keep, well, here, maybe if I put it back on. There it goes. You can keep a Tommy gun inside of that little case, which is really cool. Now, one thing that's going to be hard for me to demonstrate here is that as you drive it along, it's supposed to sound like a machine gun, and I'm really going to emphasize that supposed to. Anyways, but it's really cool if you're wanting to have a display for the 1940s style, and if you notice, there's actually a peg here that fits the same Star Trek figures. So now you can have Kirk and Spock or Picard or whoever you want hanging out on the car, looking cool. And you can't, because of the fact that none of these figures have their, well, you can't just take the door off, because none of them have legs that can fold up and sit. They don't really sit in the vehicle. You can't even see his face through the front. That's... Kids, don't drink and drive. Alright, thank you, and I will see you next time. If you enjoy my videos and want to see more, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. Also, you can support the show by signing up on Patreon, or head over to Zazzle to pick up prints of my artwork, prints on canvas, t-shirts, and other merch. You can find me on social media. For more information and updates on the channel, all info is below. If you didn't enjoy the video, why are you still here? Do you want a song? Ba ba, black sheep, have you any wool? Yes, them, 3 bags full. One for the master who can screw himself. You can listen to somebody else.